honor to have Bernie Sanders here to pay homage to the work that the farm workers did in establishing the 40 acres here, and to recognize the suffering of farm workers and the sacrifice of not only my father, who gave up his craft, as I mentioned, to help organize farm workers. A lot of other people sacrificed. My uncle sacrificed, and he sacrificed mostly in terms of giving up his health with the long fast. The first one for nonviolence in 1968. In that fast, Senator Robert Kennedy came to help him break that fast. And that was very, very instrumental in helping us eventually win the first collective bargaining contract for farm workers. And they were signed in the building that I mentioned to Senator Sanders as the Roy Ruther Memorial Building. It was the hiring hall at that time, and there the growers, the grape growers in this area came and signed those contracts, historic contracts.
Let me just thank Federico Chavez for welcoming us here. This is an historic area. This is where the plight of the farmer, where Cesar Chavez fasted and explained to the world that he was prepared to give up his life so that farm workers could live with dignity and with a decent standard of living. So this is a very historical location. And while progress has been made, and I want to talk to Federico about this, I want to find out where we are today. There is no question that a lot more work needs to be done. That farm workers continue to be exploited, that farm workers continue to be poisoned through exposure to pesticides. The drinking water in this area is undrinkable. The people turn on their taps and they're unable to drink the water because it is full of pesticides, and that people still lack the health care that human beings in America should have. So we have made progress, and Cesar Chavez is one of the great heroes of the last century. A man who literally put his life on the line for human dignity, and I'm honored to be here and to learn more about the plight of the farm workers and how we go forward. Any questions on farm worker issues? Yeah.
Who do you think is most at fault for these issues today that are being caused by farm workers?
Well, I have an answer, but I'll let Federico make the first point.
It's agribusiness. It's now not. When I was a child and my dad was organizing in this area and we were organizing the grape growers, they call themselves family farmers, but they had massive plots of land throughout the Central Valley. Now those same growers are international. They have plots of land in Peru, in Chile, and they bring in the grapes at different times. So it is globalization of agricultural, as it is in a lot of other things, that I feel it's necessary for workers to organize in all sectors, especially in farm work, in order to be able to get secure benefits. And recently here in this area they had the blueberry strike. And they were successful, blueberry strike workers, to get a union contract. My apologies, not a union contract, win the election. The problem is going to be is to try to get that contract. And that is, luckily here in California, we have a mandatory law that says for the first contract, if the grower doesn't bargain in good faith, after many hoops that people have to go through, they can impose a first contract. But that has been held up in the courts. The times that it's been tried to be utilized, it's been held up in the courts.
So let me just jump in and say that I think that when workers are paid horrendously low wages, when they are exposed to pesticides, when the water that comes out of their tap is undrinkable because it has all kinds of toxins in it. The people who have to be held responsible are the corporations who own the farms and the corporations who buy the products from the farms. We have got to pay homage and remember who the people are who grow the food that we eat. It's nice to go to a grocery store and buy food and eat berries and vegetables, but it's high time that we paid attention to the people who actually grow that food and who pick the berries. And we're going to learn more about this issue, but there's no question to my mind that workers here in the valley are being exploited, as farm workers are all over this country. I would remind folks that a number of years ago, Federico, I went to Immokalee, Florida. Does that town mean anything? And that's where they grow the tomatoes that is used by McDonald's and the other fast food industry. And literally on the day that I went there, just a coincidence, the U.S. attorney in the area was charging a contractor with slavery, with holding people in involuntary servitude. And many of the workers there were exploited ruthlessly. Their housing conditions were deplorable, healthcare virtually inaccessible in many ways. And we ended up holding a hearing on the issue with the late Ted Kennedy in Washington, and we made some progress. And we improved a little bit the working conditions and the wages of those workers. But I want to thank Federico and all those associated with what he is doing for their fights that they have waged for decades, going way back to Cesar Chavez, to make sure that those people who produce the food that we eat are treated with respect and dignity.
Senator, what would you do about the water contamination that doesn't have anything to do with pesticides?
Well, I am not a great fan of fracking, and I believe that we have got to end fracking in the United States. I worry very much not only because of climate change and drought, but for other factors. The issue of clean drinking water in this country and around the world is going to be of increased significance. Right now, wars are fought over oil. If we don't change things, I would not be surprised that the day will come where you're going to see wars fought over water. So we got a major crisis. We got to do everything that we can to conserve water, and that's will require cooperation with federal, state, and local governments. But we also have to deal with the planetary crisis of climate change and transform our energy system.
Do you see a federal role for helping out those people who are individually affected by this?
You know, I am stunned. I went to Flint, Michigan, and it was stunning to me, incredibly moving to me, to talk to parents in the United States of America in the year 2016 whose children were being poisoned by lead in water. But it turns out that it is not just Flint, Michigan. I learned yesterday, and people here, local people, may know this issue better than I do, but there are apparently many, many thousands of homes now where people cannot turn on the tap water and drink that water. This is right here in California. I'm going to learn more about this today. So we have, and I don't think a lot of Americans know this, thousands and thousands of people today, and that number is growing, do not have access to clean drinking water from their taps. And by the way, as I understand it, they are paying a water bill every month for water that they're unable to drink, which sounds a little bit crazy to me. So yes, of course the federal government should be involved in this issue.
You, in the past, voted against some of the immigration bills, citing concerns with the guest worker programs. Does coming here make you sort of reevaluate any of those thoughts?
No.
Do you still think that those...
Well, the guest worker programs that I voted against were called almost slavery type programs where people had no rights. Right now, where we're at as a country is that we have 11 million undocumented people. In my view, we need to move as quickly as possible to comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship. And we need to end the current deportation policies, which are dividing families. I think we should be uniting families and not dividing families. And if the Congress and the Republicans in Congress refuse to do what they should be doing in terms of comprehensive immigration reform, I will use the executive powers of the White House to do all that I can.
So you still think that the guest worker programs are influencing the wages here?
Well, the guest worker program is a complicated issue, and we'll want to talk about more of it. But there are examples where people in the guest worker programs have been exploited ruthlessly, absolutely ruthlessly, and that is unacceptable.
Senator, do you see the link? Let me show you the rest of the facility here, and we can, if there's any other questions you want.